Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Ask Avi. This is Tuesday's episode for our first episode of July. Yay! We've been doing Ask Avi for about a month and a half now, every week, which is exciting. So I'm really happy that we're doing okay. Thank you guys so much for questions. Remember to ask questions. Feel free to ask them. If you have any kind of question you want me to talk about or whatever, feel free to drop it in the comments below. I take questions every week, pop on a list, and I answer them here on Ask Avi. So now, for those of you who are new to the show and do not know what this show is, it is a Q&A show where I just answer questions or discuss various topics that you guys have asked me to talk about. You post comments with those topics, and I simply just talk about them. So let's go ahead and jump into today's topic, which is MMOs. So MMO stands for Massive Multiplayer Online, and it's a title that's been given to a lot of games. Now, mainly, at least in the past, these have been given to games such as MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, right? EVE Online, things like that. But more recently, MMOs are also coming to consoles. Now, one of the most prominent ones that we did see this year was Defiance, was a huge one. We also have MMOs that are really not massive multiplayer online. You can just, at least in one lobby. But you have MMOs that are considered that way, with games such as Warframe, right? Dust 514, because it's an MMO online shooter, and those kind of things. So I think the definition of MMO is actually changing quite frequently lately. Now we have a couple games that are coming down the road. I actually talked about one of them on the Gamersalt Weekly podcast, and I kind of gave it the term MMO, which is Titanfall, which is actually a Xbox One exclusive made by Respawn Entertainment, and that's actually not going to be a single-player campaign game. It's just all multiplayer. But, the definition of MMO, I think, is really changing, and I think it's something that's very interesting, because I'm used to seeing MMO in the context of games like World of Warcraft, right, where you have hundreds of thousands of players you can interact with in this persistent gaming world. Well, now that's starting to cross over to console, because the consoles hold most of the market right now. That's the easy way in instead of PC gaming. And I think that that's unfortunate, because a lot of people are missing out on some good stuff with PC gaming. But that being said, we have had MMOs come over to the consoles. Stuff like Defiance, I think, was one of the... I played the alpha, I played the beta for that game. I was in it as press for Gamersalt Weekly. And while in that beta, I had a difficult time playing the game, because after a while, it got to this severe sense of repetitiveness. There wasn't a lot of story there that was well executed, stuff like that. And with Defiance, the big part that, I had tons of friends playing the game, but this is the thing: they ran out of content. They just ran out, and all it takes is a week, and then people are kind of on their merry way. The thing with MMOs, you need a consistent world. Now, that world is going to be eaten alive by a select few gamers, and that's okay, because, there's people who beat Halo on Legendary in the first 2 days, stuff like that, the hardcore gamers. But for casuals, that's where most of the market is, and as soon as you run out of content for them, you have a problem. Now, with an MMO game, you got to have a lot of content backed, right? You got to have a lot of content in the reserves to release, because if you don't, then the game's going to fail. The thing with MMOs is there has to be a persistent world, persistent exploration, and since, it's not like Earth where you can just be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go to Shanghai today, right? You have to have that content in the game or ready to be put in the game. Now, that's something that's killed a lot of the MMOs, including Defiance was the big one. But the lack of content going into the game consistently has killed it. Guild Wars 2 has done an okay job. A lot of people feel that their content's getting slightly repetitive and stuff like that, but I think for the most part, Guild Wars 2, despite my lack of activity in the game, has actually really kept up with the quota that they have, which is making Guild Wars fairly successful. Now, is that comparable to WoW? No, not necessarily, but WoW also has a different business model. And that's the thing with MMOs is, even though you have constant content, there are different business models. For example, World of Warcraft, right, operates on a patch system. Now, these patches include new raids, new content, new dailies, things like that, and they vary in size and shape, I suppose, or what content you get, right? And I think that's a very interesting piece of the puzzle, because you actually have stuff that it's like, hey, this could work, this doesn't, things like that, which I think is extremely interesting. World of Warcraft, for me, got old after a while because it's very repetitive. That's just a me thing. I know tons of people that still play it. With Defiance, it's the same thing. After I got through most of the beta content, got old. repetitive. I actually did not pick up the game myself. And one of the big games that I'm worried about is Destiny. Now, everyone who knows Bungie's new game, you have an amazing co-op first-person shooter experience is what we looked at this year at E3, which is the first time we saw gameplay from the game. It's a gorgeous demo, but it's also a demo. Now, there's loot and stuff there, but the question is, how persistent are those worlds? How smart is the matchmaking system? Because in these MMO games, the big thing now is you're going to run into players. And when you run into players, you'll encounter raids or bosses or giant fights that you'll have to go through, and that's kind of what gives you the content. You kill those bosses, overcome those challenges with other players, and then they drop loot for you to further upgrade your character. That's the basic definition. Now, with Destiny, I'm worried that they don't have enough content. For Destiny to be successful, really what has to happen is, I talked about on the E3 podcast with Gamersalt Weekly, the big thing that has to happen for Destiny to be successful is, hey, they got to release the game, right? They got to have a lot of content in the game, but they also have to have about 2 years of content ready to go, because they're going to have to release these content updates seamlessly. Now, the interesting thing with Destiny is, will it go into these different models? And this is where the Season Pass model comes in. Defiance did have a Season Pass. That gives you DLC. Now, when you pay for a game in an MMO world, you expect it to be constantly updated. But now the Season Pass is coming into play thanks to games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, which, you know, they had Battlefield Premium and Call of Duty Elite, and they give you all the DLC for a cheaper price. And, you know, that's nice and dandy, but now the idea is it's coming into this MMO business model on the consoles, which is kind of unfortunate. The way MMOs standardly work is you pay for the game and you buy the expansion or whatever for in World of Warcraft for circumstance. So let's say I buy World of Warcraft and I buy the Burning Crusade. Well, when the Burning Crusade was out, buying those two, buying the game and the expansion for about $100, I'd say, is what I bought them for. I know that I will get all of the content in that expansion until the next expansion, right? And that's a model that I'm okay paying for. I mean, that's something I'm totally okay paying for. But with Destiny, what I'm worried is they're going to have a Season Pass. And that Season Pass is going to be DLC, which will extend your adventures in Destiny. I don't like that. When I pick up Destiny, I expect it to have tons of gameplay and then consistently update that gameplay with more content. Later down the road, if they have, say, like an expansion or a second title, then I think it's worth putting the money. Now, it'll be interesting to see what this kind of does, because MMOs on consoles, basically what we've seen is not much. And the ones that have been on there, like Defiance, really weren't that successful. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a generally good way. I mean, Defiance was good, but it lacked the graphics, and it lacked the longevity that you would expect out of an MMO. So I think it's interesting to have stuff like that on consoles. We have Diablo 3 coming to consoles. For all sake, I mean, I would consider that a massive multiplayer online game. You have PlanetSide 2, which is another massively multiplayer online game, coming to the PS4. And it's really interesting to look at all these things, and I think MMO is just this massive category that you can kind of clump a lot of stuff in, where it's, a lot of players online. Now, Destiny's the prominent one for me. I'm actually curious what the prominent ones for you guys are. Like, what MMOs do you play? Have they kept you, on the game, or have they disappointed you, and why? Go ahead and drop in the comments. I'd love to do kind of a separate show, or I guess like episode of Ask Avi talking about that kind of stuff and what you guys have to say. Now, the interesting thing, though, is with stuff like Destiny, will it become that Season Pass methodology where you have to spend $150? Oh yeah, that's about right. So like, let's say that if you don't buy the Season Pass, which would probably be $20, $30. So if you buy Destiny, you pay $60, which is what the next-gen gaming or video games are supposed to cost. So you pay $60. Then you buy the Season Pass for $90. And the Season Pass gives you 3 DLCs. All right, cool, whatever. Is your $90 actually worth that money? Because it's a lot to invest in a game, and will it entertain you that much? And then the other thing, too, is will that DLC give the longevity that it deserves as an MMO game? And I think that's a very interesting question. I guess the business model that I'm really looking at is Borderlands, right? Because Borderlands 2 has the kind of same business model that I'm projecting here for Destiny. Now, what I would love to see is, let's say I buy Destiny. I'll probably buy the collectors, so that's about $150. So I buy Collector's Edition, comes with the Season Pass, or let's just say it doesn't have a Season Pass, actually, so I get those updates for free when they're released. that would make me a much happier customer. I don't have to worry about buying a season pass. I don't have to worry about exclusives, this, that, and the other. I just want all the content in an MMO. And I think the exclusives are why I'm so worried about it, because Sony, PS4, exclusive DLC, exclusive this, exclusive that, exclusive costume, exclusive gun. Like, those exclusives really separate MMOs in the console generation. I think that's something that's tearing the MMOs apart, to be honest with you. But it'll be interesting to see how Destiny faces off. Now, I know I have focused a lot on Destiny. That's the main MMO that I'm concerned about. But I'm interested to see, what kind of other games and what definitions of MMOs you guys have. So feel free to leave me some comments. Because the definition of MMOs is drastically changing right now. And I think it'll be very interesting to see what we consider an MMO later down the road, right? So who knows? But I'm not a fan of this season pass business model, especially for my MMOs. I would not like to buy like World of Warcraft and then say, all right, if you want all the updates, you have to buy a season pass or pay $10 a piece for the updates. It's like, no, that's not how it should be. It should be done like, on the consoles at least, like Skyrim does their stuff, right? Or this, that, and the other, where they add mounted combat and this and general improvements, and I don't have to pay for them, which I think is crap. So who knows? I think it's an interesting business model, and I think that the way the business model works is going to change for better or for worse. I hope for better. We'll see. So anyway, that's kind of my overall thought process on MMOs. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. I'm interested to see how these work in the future, and I'm interested to see how they come across in 2014 when I pick up games like Destiny on the next-gen consoles. But, we're hoping for the best. So tell me how you guys feel about it. Love to hear from you guys. And remember that if you have a question for the show that you'd like me to talk about or discuss, feel free to drop it in the comments below this video. I do a new episode every Tuesday and every Friday, and I am happy to answer all of your questions. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. It helps me out. Also share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button if you're looking for more shows like Ask Avi. I'm excited. I got a couple shows going on right now, and they're going strong, so I really appreciate the feedback and help and support you guys are giving me. So anyway, I'm off to go pack for the Rooster Teeth Expo. I will see you guys next week with more Ask Avi. There will be an episode this Friday as well. Pre-recorded. I'm actually going to record it back-to-back with this one, and you guys will have it up by Friday. So take it easy, everybody. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.